Hi, I'm Phil Rude, and I'm an independent comic book artist and writer, and I sometimes play guitar quite semi-adequately. Today, I'm inking this Roadrunner sketch on a piece of Strathmore Bristol, and am mostly using a Kuretake brush pen that I ran across in the Museum of Pens that I have somehow built over the past 15 to 20 years. When I run across a pen that I think even has the potential for a cool or interesting line, I buy it and I try it. And then I usually go back to my standard tools, and that has led me to have an enormous collection of pens. Someday I might actually do a video on this, sort of go back into the archives kind of thing. I don't know. I will probably be more amazed than anyone if I do that about what I've actually got back there. Phil Rude, that illustrator guy, is brought to you by pens. Lots and lots of pens and ink and drawing tools to a degree I should be embarrassed by. Pens. Buy some. It was insane to do a convention at the height of the holiday season, but I did it anyway. At the end of January, right before Groundhog Day, I tabled at the Southwest Florida ComicFest. It's actually good. It gave people an opportunity, last-minute shoppers, to buy some last-minute Groundhog Day presents from local vendors. In my last video, this event was in the future, and in this one, it's in the past. So I'm going to talk about how it went. It was great. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. In all actuality, it was a really great convention. My sales were not earth-shattering, but considering that foot traffic was, let's call it inconsistent. It was a little hit and miss all day. I thought my sales were pretty decent. I moved some books and got more eyes on my work, and that is really a huge part of doing shows. It grows the audience, which I don't love just in a potential monetary gains kind of way. If I'm being honest, I don't hate that idea either. But it really is cool to see that more people are seeing my work. Even if someone was on the fence about buying a copy of Roadrunners, for example, I would make sure to tell them that it is available to read for free online. The first hurdle is getting people to read and enjoy your work, to try something new that they're unfamiliar with. When you're an indie comics guy, people a lot of times aren't coming to the convention knowing the thing you make. So that's a big hurdle. It's and having it online and having that available for people to read online is one of those hurdles. And just getting people to interact with me at a convention, I can sort of straddle that hurdle by having my comic online and say, you don't have to buy it here. You can just read it for free. And if you want a copy, you can buy it in my shop. Oh, by the way, you can buy Roadrunners in my shop online, philrudeart.com. Anyway, but my point is that if you can do that, if you can introduce somebody to your work, and if they like it, the other stuff will come later. Another thing that I had on my table that actually went over really well at this show is a portfolio of original art. I keep a book with comic pages and standalone illustrations. The original art in that book, like everything else on my table, it is there for sale. Not the whole, you could buy the whole book, but, the pieces in it are for sale. But I've found over the past few shows, since I've started putting it out, that having that book on the table is great for engagement. People come and look through it out of curiosity. Partly because I think a lot of people have never seen a raw original comic page before. Or if they have, everybody works a little different. You get a glimpse of the process. I'm a process junkie. I love seeing people's process. I love seeing people's original art. and it kind of draws people in. Admittedly, the art is by quite a wide margin the most expensive thing on my table. So occasionally, people will flip through the book and they will abruptly stop browsing when they notice the price because they think that looking too much may obligate them to buy. And again, what I do is I don't do the high pressure sales. I try and assure them that it's okay to just check it out. They can ask any questions, not just about price, but they can ask about how I make stuff. Like it's engagement. And I try to just assure them, hey, no pressure. Just take a look through the book, and I'll show you what books they're from if you want to see that. I'm finding that I like to go and talk to people about this kind of stuff, and I get to have a great series of conversations throughout the day. It's a big deal for me because I'm a pretty introverted guy, but I am able to go out there and put my art forward and meet a lot of people who kind of discover, oh, I didn't know who you were, and this looks cool, and I want to buy this, or I want to read this, and I get to talk to people with a mutual interest. They like comics, they like art. It's very cool. I met a lady there who was there with her kids and didn't really know much about comics, but she was like, well, I've done some calligraphy, but I don't do art. And we talked a lot about how calligraphy is absolutely art, and calligraphy is very difficult art. And I have dabbled in some of that, and we talked about that. You meet people with common ground, even if they don't think you have common ground. This was especially true at Southwest Florida ComicFest because it was a show that was so focused on comics. It wasn't a convention full of toys and t-shirts and Funko Pops and 3D printed dice rollers. I wasn't competing with Pokemon cards. All that stuff is cool. All that stuff is great. It brings foot traffic in at other shows. I'm not knocking it at all. But this was a specialty show. It was comics, and it brought in comic fans, even collectors who were just looking for old Marvel and DC issues would often stop off at all of the indie tables too and check out just what do you have, even if they weren't interested in buying it. It was really like, oh, cool. A lot of comics all in one place. It was a celebration of the medium as a whole. As I said, the foot traffic was a little hit and miss. It was a little inconsistent. You get a rush of people in, and then it kind of slows down, and then another wave will come through. But as the afternoon went on, the traffic really slowed down quite a bit, and eventually it was a full-fledged crawl that was bordering on just straight immobility. But, that sort of puts a cramp on sales. But if you had good table neighbors, then it was still a good hang. You know what I mean? And I was fortunate enough to have some that were better than good. I was in really good company with really cool people that day. Cool Dean was in the booth right behind me. Which was great because Dean is great. I've talked about her before. Dean is the writer and artist behind comics like Comet Convenience and Alien Boxing, and she's got a ton of her art on some badass stickers and merch. She had tote bags that were handmade. She's the one who inspired me to start making mini comics again, because that's how she makes these comics, and they're just great little handmade objects that are also books. And it's great to see her stuff. It's great to see her at shows, and it's great to see her doing well at shows. So it was really cool to have her as a neighbor. The table next to mine I had an author, his name was J.P. Rowe. Name is J.P. Rowe. And he was selling his cyberpunk novels Into the Beanstalk, Into the Looking Glass, and The Game State, as well as some zines and some other assorted cyberpunk merch. Dude has an incredible table set up with like props he made for book displays that were all in this just wonderful cyberpunk aesthetic. Handmade stuff. Really, really cool. Had a great time talking with Mr. Rowe and watching him make zine pages in the coolest old school. I can describe it as like collage, but I know that's not the whole thing of it. Just sort of compiling these pages together and talking to him about making zines. Really, really cool guy. A great hang. And on the other side of me was kid Ray Raynette. I say kid, full adult. He's in his 20s. I'm just an old guy. He comes from the east coast of Florida for the con, and I bought a bunch of his books from his series called Junket. Ray's art style is somewhere between like pop art and graffiti, and it comes together in his books in this really cool way. He's a really nice dude and a really smart dude. Ray knows so much about like comics history and Jack Kirby and also like animation and Walt Disney. He takes all these kind of old school inspirations, and he also has like this great knowledge base of literature. And it all comes together in his books in this really unique way. And Ray's a good dude. And he was fun to hang out with too. And then across the aisle from us was this guy named Zachary Osborne, who I had met at another con the previous week. I was not tabling there. I was just attending. And Zach has a book out called Ghastly Horror. That's a really fun, old school horror book. It reminds me of like a Universal Monsters kind of vibe. Really fun book that I had bought from him the week previous, along with a cool print. And at ComicFest, I scored an original art piece. He had a drawing of Jason Voorhees, which is really cool. I'll have links to all these creators in the show notes, and I urge you to check them out because they're doing some really amazing work, and they're great people and great sort of independent creators that, deserve more eyes on their work. So in the past couple of years that I've gotten back into doing shows and markets, I've been happily surprised that there are so many people like this in South Florida making comics, making art, writing genre fiction, making so much cool stuff that it fills up convention halls and pop-up markets. It's been so cool to do these shows and meet so many of these people, and Southwest Florida ComicFest was no exception. And I already cannot wait to do this show again next year. That's going to do it for me this time. I just want to ask you to please subscribe to my channel here on YouTube so you don't miss a video. Go to philrootart.com where you can check out and follow my blog so you don't miss updates there. You can check out my shop. You can find out where to find me on the rare occasions that I'm posting on social media these days. And you can even read my comic, Roadrunners, for free. You can read it there, or you can read it on the WEBTOON app if that's more convenient for you if you use that app. That's going to do it for me this time. I want to remind everyone to take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and it's getting crazy out there. Check local listings, take care of your communities and the most vulnerable people in them.